Welcome, welcome, welcome. What's up, land flippers? What's up? Today, I'm going to share my top 4 questions to ask property owners who respond to my offer. But first, this week I received some hate mail. Do you know what I mean? One person wrote an expletive 4-letter word and then said, "This is lower than the tax assessed value," with lots of exclamation points, lots of emotion being conveyed. One person told me I should be ashamed of myself for taking advantage of people. One letter was a long, handwritten paragraph, and it said, "You guys are so funny. I paid over $100,000 for this property 5 years ago, and since then I've put in a road, I've rebuilt the ponds, I've put in a well, underground electricity, a soil engineer laid out the septic, the foundation for a new house is in and it's been inspected, and the pastures are cross-fenced. There are beautiful woods for hiking and 2 creeks." And he said, "Offer me $250,000. I might consider taking it." I really appreciated the creativity and the extra time that this person took to send that letter to me. I guess that was a counter offer. I guess that was technically a counter offer, but of course I couldn't accept that. I think my offer was like in the 30 range. I get a lot of voicemail. One this week said, "You put a letter in my mailbox about purchasing my land for $18,000. Maybe do your research a bit because we paid a lot more than that." So do your research before you send people crap in the mail like this. Lots of people can be mean. Have you ever noticed that? But this week I also received 2 signed contracts. That's right, no call, no email, no text, just a signed agreement in the mail. And that is what makes all of this worth it. Hi, I'm Chris Thomas. I help real estate investors achieve 100% return on investment and at least $20,000 profit per deal without ever seeing the property or fixing anything using my land flipping high profit secrets. My most recent deal made $127,000. All right, say hi to me in the chat. Today's topic is my top 4 questions to ask property owners who respond to my offer. How do I start as a beginner? And that is such a great question, Tammy. It's as simple as starting to make offers to property owners. Property ownership data is a matter of public record. It can be found at the county courthouse. Okay. Hey, John. You need thick skin to do this work because, haters gonna hate, right? Hi, Jay. All right, Rebecca Kemp also asked, how do you recognize a good deal for land? And that's a great question too. I love that question. You have to have, all right, you know that you have a good deal on property when you look at similar properties selling in the same area for a lot more money. Okay, so look for most recent sales of a similar property in an area that's probably about 2 miles within the subject property and within the last 3 to 6 months. Now, if you can't find enough properties that sold, you can research a wider geographic circle until you find something. All right, and you can also look further back in time. Hope that helps. I've been able to turn people around on the phone. But some people just want to rip your head off. I don't know why that is, but all I can say is the market is harsh. People are mean, especially if they don't know you or if it's through the mail, or email. It's just easy to be unkind to someone when they're not right in front of you. But listen, you don't have to listen to it. It's just par for the course. It's just part of the job. But thank them for calling and say, "I'm sorry you don't like the offer, but feel free to throw it away." And always end with this. Say, "I hope you're having a great day," because that is so disarming in my experience. Sometimes people will grill me about how I came up with the offer price, or they might ask me if I know that the values are much higher in the area. I get that a lot. And then Jeff asked me the other day if I remail areas over and over again when no response is received. Some people have said, I could remail in 6 months for a slightly higher offer price. There's nothing wrong with trying that. But you know what? I don't do that. Do you do that? Let me know in the chat if you do that. Kurt said, I hope you're having a great day. I'm just going to take a pause. John said, I have a situation where a seller wants more money now after the purchase agreement. I even offered a little more in the price. Oh gosh, this is long. But they are not responding. I don't think I have many options in terms of lawsuit, and I've been advised by other folks to just let it go. Thoughts, comments, question marks? How can this be prevented in the future? Okay, John, I don't know. I don't know you very well, so I don't know what contract you used or if you filed an affidavit. But why don't you send me a private message and I can talk with you about it? Because depending on how you set things up, they can't just change their mind. That's not lawful. All right, but back to what I was talking about. I got distracted. So I was asked the other day if I remail the areas, right? And I want to know if y'all do that. Have you ever had someone call and say that, circumstances have changed and while they weren't ready when the letter came, now they're ready? I had one seller who needed to probate his father's will, so he called me several months later. And another time I spoke with a wife who found my letter in the file folder after her husband had passed away. She was going through all this stuff. So sometimes sellers call and ask what this is all about, right? Most people just want to know that you're a regular person who's going to complete the transaction as you've described in your letter. But have you ever had a seller on the phone and then you just didn't know what to say? You're just like, I don't know what to say. That's why today's topic is on the 4 questions that I want you to get answered when you get a seller on the phone. And even when you get a response, if somebody writes you back, like signs your agreement and sends it in, I still call and ask these questions, okay? The number 1 question is, why do you want to sell? Why? What's your motivation? That is the most important question, because if they aren't motivated, nothing else is going to matter. I'm looking for a situation. I'm looking for a non-wanter, someone who they don't care about it anymore. And then after I get that answered, the second question is, if I'm saying I want to just counter offer, and then depending on how much more they want, depends on whether or not the conversation's going to continue. If they want like $100,000 more, it's probably a no-go. But if it's within a small range, then I'm going to move on to the next question, okay? Because if I offer 11,000 and they say, I was really hoping to get 15, I'm probably going to be able to come up to 15, okay? Because I'm making such a low ball offer. So once I get the price question answered, okay? So first it's motivation, then it's price. Then I'm going to go on and say, does it have road access? Sometimes I'll just say, how do you get to the property? And they'll tell me how they get there. So I'm looking to find out if there's a road to the property. And then if there is a road, I don't care if it's paved or not, but is there legal access? Like, are you legally allowed? If you had to cross other people's property, is there a right of way in your deed? Is there some kind of an easement situation already established? Where I had a property and there was a road, so I just assumed, because it was a paved, nice road, I assumed I could use it. It was not until months later that I figured out, this is kind of how I learned the lesson. I figured out that was a private road and I did not have a legal right to use it. Now, was the neighbor nice and willing to let me use it? Thankfully, yes. But that's not always the case. All right. And then my 4th question would be, do you have any other property that you would like to sell? For the person who wants to change the offer, I still go through the same checklist, but I end the call saying, I need to do my homework and get back in touch and then review the evaluation, one more time. That 4th question I just mentioned, do you have any other properties you'd like to sell? That question made me $90,000 recently, because it did turn out someone I was already working with and was about to close on a deal with. I just happened to be talking to him. He was such a nice man. And I said, well, about $90,000. So that's a huge question to make sure to ask. Now, when a seller wants to negotiate, sometimes they ask why the offer is so low. And my answer is simply just to explain that while it may seem low initially, they may not realize that there are there will be like no other additional expenses for them. They won't have to pay any commissions to real estate agents, which they love. Then, when I explain that I'm going to pay all the closing costs and even the back taxes in most cases, then they usually start to realize that I'm making it as simple and easy as possible. And usually, if they're a non wanter, like if they're not motivated, a lot of people ask me, how do I get them to sign with a 6 month contract, to close? One of the reasons is because a lot of times they've owned it for a long time or they've inherited it and they just don't want it anymore. It's just been kind of sitting there. And so what's 6 more months to them? They don't care, right? But what they love is that now they don't have to worry about figuring out how they're going to get rid of it. It's just taken care of. I had to tell the seller the sad news near the end of our due diligence period. I said to the seller and I tried to kill the deal. I contacted him and I said, I know I offered $50,000 originally, but that offer can't stand any longer. And it's because he knew, and he was not surprised because once I had done the due diligence, I realized most of the 15 acres were located in a floodplain. And there was a creek there and it swells very high most of the year. And then there's gas lines that were running through the property. There were power lines running through the property. And there was a gravel road for the easement through the property for the neighborhood sewage plant. Later, I found out that the public road was not a legal easement for this property, which I still don't believe that, but I didn't fight it. There was a nearby golf course and they had been dropping all their grass clippings on the property. And I had figured out, there's only a teeny tiny little spot on the land that was even buildable. So I was already marketing it as a recreational property. But when I presented my case to the seller, he couldn't argue and he agreed with me. So he actually didn't believe that we could do anything with the property. So I called him back, and I said, I can't offer you 50 anymore. I will offer you 25,000. And he was excited. He was like, yeah, I'll take it. And we actually already had a buyer on the line at the time. I guess we must have gotten it really shortly after that. We got a buyer for 69,000. And so we ended up making 44,000 on the deal. But I'm just all that to say it happens. Breaking the sad news to a prospective seller has to be backed by real reasons that anyone could agree with, like the ones I mentioned. This particular case had so many issues that it was really super easy to go back and say, I'm cutting my offer in half. But it's not always that cut and dry, but just make sure you have a real reason, like for not just that your comp when you did the pricing in the initial phase that you didn't do it right. You can't really say that. You just have to say, well, now that I'm looking at it, I see this, this, and this, or it could just be one thing. But you can just tell them initially it looked like we could pay that price, but on closer examination, we just can't offer that amount. And it's just kind of a take it or leave it thing. Just tell people what you think and don't even worry about getting emotional about it. Just state the facts and let them make their own decisions because you just never know what they're going to say.